The truth is, one of the most overlooked battlegrounds of the Second World War wasn't fought with rifles or artillery. It was fought inside kitchens, barns, cellars and fields as families struggled to keep enough food hidden from occupying forces to survive another day. Before I get into the 7 foods themselves, let me speak directly to you, especially if you're a long-time subscriber of the channel or someone who's just discovering us. This topic matters because food scarcity wasn't just a hardship. It shaped resistance movements, family strategies, and the daily psychology of survival. When you understand how ordinary people protected their most precious resources under threat, you gain real insight into human resilience and ingenuity. And if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the deep dive history we publish. Now, let's get into the foods families guarded with their lives and what modern survivalists can take from their strategies. Grains were hidden because they were the backbone of long-term survival, not just day-to-day meals. Grains, wheat, barley, rye, oats were the bedrock of wartime survival. Occupying soldiers confiscated them first because they stored well, fed troops easily, and represented stability. Families often buried sealed metal containers in their gardens or tucked small sacks into false walls or beneath floorboards. For anyone studying survival logistics today, grains remain one of the most dependable calorie sources. A practical application: keep grains in moisture-proof containers and rotate them every few months. The method remains unchanged since the 1940s because it still works. Potatoes were hidden because they offered unmatched caloric density and reliability. In Eastern Europe especially, potatoes were worth more than gold. Soldiers knew this, which meant families needed to hide entire harvests if they hoped to make it through winter. Many dug potato clamps, which were clever underground storage mounds disguised with soil and straw. These clamps kept potatoes cool, stable, and unseen. If you're thinking in terms of preparedness today, a modern equivalent is a backyard root cellar or even a buried barrel lined with sand for insulation. The lesson holds. When you control a reliable carbohydrate source, you control your survival timeline. Salt was hidden because it was essential for food preservation and long-term sustainability. Salt wasn't just a seasoning, it was a lifeline. Without it, meat spoiled, vegetables rotted, and families lost the ability to preserve anything they managed to keep away from occupying forces. Families often hid salt in cloth bundles placed inside chimney bricks or behind loose stones, since soldiers rarely bothered searching soot-filled cavities. For modern survivalists, stock salt in sealed containers and keep a small decoy supply available. WWII families often used that exact tactic, offering a small visible amount, so soldiers assumed it was all they had. Home-rendered fats were, often hidden because they were irreplaceable energy sources in a starving world. Lard, tallow and butter were aggressively confiscated, since armies use fat for cooking, lubrication and even, manufacturing. Families frequently hid jars of lard under animal feed, buried butter wrapped in cloth, or submerged sealed containers in cold wells. These methods kept fats cool and prevented spoilage. For today's preparedness strategies, fats remain one of the most difficult long-term food items to store, yet they're absolutely essential. A practical adaptation is storing shelf-stable oils in dark, cool spaces and learning basic rendering techniques so you can produce your own if needed. Dried beans were hidden because they delivered protein that farms could no longer spare. Protein shortages really defined the occupation years, you know. Dried beans, navy, fava, lentils became the poor man's meat, and troops absolutely knew their value. Families often hid small bags inside feed sacks or used double-bottomed wooden chests to disguise their stores. If you're planning modern food resilience, beans remain one of the smartest items to store. They're inexpensive, versatile, and nutritionally reliable. The World War II takeaway is simple. Disperse your storage. One hidden stash was never enough, because if it was found, you lost everything. Cured meats were hidden because they were both a luxury and, well, a medical necessity. A single ham or ring of sausage could keep a family functioning for weeks. Soldiers seized cured meat immediately because it travelled well and, honestly, boosted morale. In response, families developed creative hiding strategies, curing meat inside hollowed logs, suspending it in wells, or disguising it beneath piles of firewood. The practical modern application is in learning preservation methods, smoking, curing, dehydrating. Because in any crisis scenario, skills are far more resilient than stockpiles. Garden vegetables were hidden because they represented renewable, self-sustaining food sources. When occupying forces realized families were surviving off gardens, they began seizing harvests or forcing people to grow crops for the army. This led to secret night gardens, patches grown behind hedgerows, inside forest clearings, or between rows of disguised animal fodder. Families also harvested early and let vegetables continue ripening in cellars. For the modern preparedness mindset, the message is clear. Don't rely on a single visible food source. Learn staggered planting, seed saving, and small space gardening that can remain discreet if needed. These 7 foods weren't simply groceries. They were survival strategies shaped by fear, ingenuity, and the determination to outlast an oppressor. What you can take from these families is a mindset. Diversify your supplies, hide them well, store them smartly, and master the skills that turn raw ingredients into security. If you want more deep, practical history like this, make sure you subscribe, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts, and help us keep the legacy of survival knowledge alive.